Welcome back, everybody. This is Lush Life, No Labels,
Hello, I'm Michelle.
and this is Alfredo. So, our story of the week this time is not that exciting, I guess. It's exciting for us, but I don't think it's a fun story like some of our other story of the weeks. But we got to see each other in person. I was just up there to see Michelle for the weekend.
Yes, thanks for coming to visit. It was great to see you.
And it's something we've already talked about before, how we're friends for over 10 years at this point, but we don't live in the same city, so we have to fly and make plans to see each other.
We have a long distance friendship.
Yeah, exactly. Did you make that term up or did you read that on the internet somewhere?
That's just something I say. Like Gretchen Wiener in Mean Girls, and she was trying to make fetch happen. Maybe I can make the phrase long distance friendship happen and go viral on TikTok.
I feel like you've probably seen it on Twitter or Reddit and you're just
No, I've actually never seen it.
maybe you
I'm
forgot
just
that
that clever.
this podcast we wanted to take a little bit of a different direction. And we just wanted to talk about what we do as friends and what things we like to do when we actually see each other in person, because obviously we still communicate virtually a lot through Instagram or iMessage or whatever when we're not physically together. But just talk about what we do as friends and maybe make you think about what you do with your friends, in person versus long distance friendship, as Michelle said.
This weekend, one of the things we did a lot was watch movies together. And Alfredo and I actually don't have the same taste in the genre of movies that we prefer to watch. But when we are together, we somehow find a way to watch some very interesting movies, I would say.
Also, we do other things besides watch movies, but it was rainy and cold the whole time I was up there, so I didn't really want to go outside anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That was a bummer.
But
So
that's definitely true, what Michelle said, that we do not have the same taste in movies, but we make it work and we find things to watch.
So we have a few different movies and shows that we want to talk to y'all about today. And
And maybe you'll want to watch them after you hear us give our take on them.
exactly.
Because we kind
So
of like to watch, we usually watch not ridiculous movies, but kind of,
over
what's
the
the
top
word?
for sure.
Over the top.
Some of them we don't know that they're going to be a certain way until we're in it. And then we find out that there's some major plot twist. So let's jump in.
The other comment I would say is that in the era of Hulu, Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, Peak, all these other things, there's so much content, but the quality is usually just not
It's
there.
low.
So there's all these really dumb movies. And I think Michelle and I love to watch these like ridiculous movies and just take them apart. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's not possible. Where did that come from?
Exactly.
The first thing we watched, this was Michelle's choice. We watched Jurassic Park Domination.
Dominion.
Not Dominate Dominion. That I wouldn't watch action movies like that, but it was definitely memorable, put it that way.
I'd seen the movie before because I've watched a lot of the Jurassic Park movies, but this movie was crazy. So, Alfredo, since it was your first time watching it, first I want to ask you, what was your favorite dinosaur that we saw in the movie?
I like the vegetarian ones with the long necks because they seem peaceful and they're just not bothering anybody.
I think they are the elephant of dinosaurs for sure.
But with the whole movie, and Michelle mentioned this, and it's true, it's like in all these dinosaur Jurassic Park movies, why are the dinosaurs so violent and aggressive? If they're not hungry, I don't think animals are acting this aggressive and violent just all the time. If they're
They don't even eat the people that they kill most of the time. They just kill them and then move on to the next person. And I don't think that's very realistic. Not that I know what happened billions of years ago with the dinosaurs. That was one ridiculous part. There was one part where the main female character, she in the previous movie was some corporate woman who ran the park in on the island. And in this movie, she became Jason Bourne. I could not believe it. She was running from these
jumping off of a
carnivorous.
building.
Exactly. She jumped off a building. She was jumping between buildings. It was crazy.
Yeah, and it's like people are not that fit in real life, especially these scientists, corporate people. Not judging people, maybe they can
I'm
be,
a
but
corporate person. What are you trying to say?
can you do what's it called, parkour?
I definitely can't do parkour.
So yeah, this is America. Everyone's out of shape. Like, there's no way they're doing all this. That movie was really ridiculous, but I did like it because you have those typical tropes that are in all these movies, like the evil corporation, the evil biotech corporation that
It's always an evil pharma company. We need to move on to big coffee. Starbucks needs to be evil in a movie for once.
I feel like evil pharmaceutical company really gets into the minds of
I know,
people
I'm just
because
saying that it's not only pharmaceutical companies that have the capability to be evil.
in these action superhero, it's usually the biotech companies doing some shady things. Then we watched that was a
Actually, before
lot.
we move to the next movie, if you were to rate this movie from 0 to 10, with 10 being you would camp out in front of the theater the night before the premiere, what would you rate Jurassic World Dominion?
Maybe a three. It
Okay.
was just there was just so many things wrong with that movie.
Oh, didn't they have the dinosaurs that could not live in the cold be in the Arctic and a glacier in the movie? That made no sense.
There was a part where they were in the Himalayas and then all of a sudden it was really green, jungly, and I was like, I don't think that's possible if you're that high up that it's suddenly. And then also there was a part where they went to Malta and they made Malta look like it was run down. That was rude for the Maltese people. That's when it's a cute little European country. I don't. The next movie we watched was my choice. This was my recommendation, so maybe this says a little bit about me that I chose this movie. It was a French Mexican nominated movie that's set in Mexico in a small conservative city. And
That movie was so weird.
I mean, it's a French, like
I
a
know, and
French
French
art
people make
house
weird
movie.
movies. They do. What I will say is there's one French movie that I love, actually two, Les Triplets de Belleville and Les Cages aux Folles. If anyone
Those
wants.
are not that weird. Those are pretty mainstream, though, I feel like.
The
They're
ones that I like
quirky.
are the quirky ones, not the other.
I like weird art house movies, these kind of non-commercial. This movie was had a lot of like social criticism within it. The way they introduced it was a little bit different. Do you want to tell the plot, Michelle?
Yes, the plot is an alien falls in a meteor in the farmlands of a couple and they take a liking to it. I won't spoil it, but they basically take care of this alien that is living in their barn. On the other side, we have a married mother of two who feels unfulfilled and unsatisfied in her marriage.
But unsatisfied sexually.
Yes.
She's really bored with her husband.
And we find out that her brother, her younger brother, who is gay and out, is actually having an affair with her husband, who is gay. Well, he could be bi and closeted.
But he's really
and
homophobic and sexist too.
He's all the things.
He's just a very
was a piece of work, let me tell you that.
And he gaslighted her when she tried to confront him.
So then the brother ends up actually, during all of this, she somehow finds out about the alien in the barn and has been going to visit the alien to get the pleasure that she's been missing in her marriage. Her brother ends up dead, and everyone, including the wife, thinks it's the husband because the brother wanted to end things with the husband. Okay. But turns out the husband was not the killer. In fact, it was the alien in the barn who had seduced the brother, who then felt he couldn't get any more or any better pleasure from the cheating husband, breaks up with him, is killed by the alien, who we find out about later.
The alien wasn't really important in the plot.
They could have done the same movie without this alien plot there of this young mother realizing that she's not happy where she is in life, and then her finding her own way or finding her freedom or her voice through other means, because the alien really did not play a role in the actual plot of her finding herself and trying to be happier in her life.
That was the social commentary. It was about sexism and homophobia and machismo in a town and how it makes people feel repressed. The general conservative vibe in the town that made people feel unsatisfied and unfulfilled in their marriages and their relationships.
So out of 1 to 10, I would rate that a 6, actually, because really the alien plot I didn't like, but I do like the social commentary aspect of it. And I think had they just gone a slightly different direction, I would have liked it more.
Would you have wanted the alien to just not be there or the alien to be more involved?
I wouldn't want it to be there. I'd want another mechanism that helps these people or the wife specifically find her happiness. So it doesn't need to be an alien. It could be another plot device that helps her move on with her life.
Yeah, or it could have been another relationship, self-realization. For our listeners, just we didn't say it, that movie was called La Región Salvaje or Untamed. Wasn't that what it was called in English?
Yes.
The Untamed or La Región Salvaje, if you want to watch that. Next movie.
The next movie we watched was a Bollywood movie. Alfredo, what was the name?
Queen.
Yes, Queen. Do you want to tell a quick synopsis?
In certain situations, I do like Bollywood movies because I think it is just a very different perspective. They dance, they sing, it's super dramatic. And this was sometimes it's so ridiculous, it's kind of funny. I liked it. It was about a woman basically who gets dumped right before her wedding day, like 2 days before her wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
And then she decides to go on her honeymoon anyway.
To Paris.
And she said Paris was her favorite city, but she'd never been there.
She'd never been there. Honestly, it seemed like she'd never been out of the town that she grew up in. One part that pissed me off was one of the scenes where it just seemed like she didn't know how to cross the street, which was baffling to me because she was from not a small town in India. And there are many cars in India. So I was just very confused as to why she had no idea how to cross the street in her naivete that was shown in the movie. So,
it was older, keep that in mind. But what I found interesting was the way the Indians are portraying Europe and Europeans and French
because
people.
she goes to Paris and then she goes to Amsterdam.
I felt that the portrayal of the Europeans, especially the way they portrayed European women, was kind of offensive, right?
And you have lived in Europe for 6 years. You definitely can comment on that.
They just made it seem like all the European women they wear really revealing clothing and they just love having sex. It's not really like that either.
But the movie was good. I enjoyed it overall, even though the main character was getting on my last nerves at different points in the movie. But I like the way that she also goes through her journey of growth and being out on her own for the first time and dealing with the aftermath of this failed engagement. There's a lot of I wouldn't say a lot, but there is some of those common tropes, as you mentioned before, that we've seen a lot in different movies, but I enjoyed it.
It was cliche, you're right, that oh, going on a trip to find yourself and you have this realization and you're empowered. But that really can happen to people. I
So
would give it like a 6, I think. I would give it a 6 out of 10.
I would give it a 5 out of 10. The last thing we watched actually was not a movie. We watched one episode, apparently, Paris Hilton, for everyone who remembers her. She has a cooking show on Netflix, and we watched one episode where Paris made some cake and she was invited to the rapper slash influencer Saweetie's house, and Saweetie made some tacos for them.
Yes, but I think she brings on different famous people to the cooking show. So she had, for example, Kim Kardashian, Lily Pons, and they cooked together, but there were just a lot of questions about her as a person.
I didn't really know if Paris herself cooks that much. I don't think so. What I got from the episode with Saweetie was that Saweetie definitely cooks a lot and has grown up cooking, but Paris did not seem like she was the type of person to be in the kitchen throwing down.
Yeah, but it is crazy because I guess if you're that wealthy, you might not learn how to cook.
You grew up maybe with private chefs or family chefs, especially as a Hilton. The show was cute. There are a lot of colors and I like their outfits, but it was just a little awkward because they didn't know each other and you could tell that.
Yeah, and they're not two people I would see getting along.
So for the show, it made a little sense, but I don't know that I would watch another episode of or Paris Hilton's cooking show.
Yeah, so I guess that kind of summarizes some of the things that we watch. I think we have some very varied tastes in shows and everything.
Yes, for sure. But
But
it was good to see you this weekend for sure.
yeah, no, it was nice and it went by like a blink of an eye though.
It did. It did.
Wrapping things up though, what we've been thinking about is we appreciate our listeners a lot. And we really want to hear from you and your input to incorporate that into the show.
What we want to do is ask our listeners if there are any questions that you are curious about and want to hear us answer, or if there are any topics that you'd like to hear us discussing together, then we invite you to send that content to our email for this podcast, which is lushlife710@gmail.com. The 710 is the actual numbers.
Or you could always message us on social media or Instagram. Obviously, anyone can write to the email. And we would really appreciate your comments and questions and ideas to make this engaging for our listeners. So with that, let's wrap things up. I hope that at least one of the shows or movies we mentioned seems interesting to you and you'll watch it.
You can leave us a comment through the email if you end up watching any of these movies and have some thoughts you'd like to share. So thank you for listening to this episode of Lush Life No Labels.
Thank you. Have a good week.